Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and in our Facebook group, Finding Love and Success After a Toxic Relationship, I did a post about helping your kids see toxic behavior and how so many times I see women get out of toxic situations and then their kids end up trying to appease the toxic person, toxic family member, toxic partner, whatever it may be. And it's so maddening. And in this post, it talked about reminding women how they used to appease toxic behavior and kind of bridge the gap, saying their kids, even if it's adult kids, might be doing the same thing. They got a lot of buzz and a lot of people had questions about it. So I wanted to address it here in the live and give you good news and give you bad news. Okay. So the bad news is I have talked to thousands of people who have been in toxic situations, and there is no one line. If you say this phrase, it's going to cut through the confusion. People are going to see what's happening in a toxic relationship, and all will be well in the end. Okay. And I want you to think about if you're listening to this, you've probably been in a toxic relationship. Think how confusing it was. Think how you talked yourself out of things. Think of all the things you didn't want to see, so you never really opened your eyes. Think of the things that you didn't have ears willing to hear, right? Maybe somebody warned you, maybe a former partner warned you, or a therapist warned you, like something happened and you were just like, well, they don't really know, okay? So I do here, this is kind of the bad news. I do want you to know out of the thousands of people I've talked to, I've never heard one person say, okay, well, if you say these three things, then someone will recognize that that person's toxic. They'll break the cognitive dissonance. They'll break off the relationship and everything will be fine. All you got to say is these three things. Okay. It is a process of dropping the shades off of your eyes and seeing the red flags and seeing people for who they are. I wish I had a different answer, but I do not. Okay. I also really want to bring you guys back to how new the concept of narcissism or personality disorders is. So there is if you Google narcissist, so it'll come up and show you like how many times narcissism is mentioned in books and that type of thing. I think in 1920, it was like this barely teeny tiny line. And then now, 100 years later, it's like mentioned all the time. And so this is when you think about how old humanity is, concepts like abuse, concepts like personality disorders, concepts like narcissism, concepts like gaslighting, concepts like are very, very new. It wasn't illegal to hit your wife in the US until the 1970s. Okay? Humans have been around for a long time. This is a very new conversation. Okay? And the point being, unfortunately, there's not a lot of research on, okay, if you say these three things to your kids, then everything will be fine and this will be good, okay? It is a process and it is a long game. Is there hope? Absolutely, okay? And I titled this, Help Your Children See Toxic Behavior, very, very, very much on purpose. Not help your children see that your ex-partner was a jerk. Okay, and I want you to realize how specific those differences are. One, it can get you in real legal problems if you're talking bad about their dad. No judge likes that. Okay, and then at the same time, Lundy Bancroft recommends, not covering over for an abusive partner. Lundy Bancroft is the author of Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men, and he works with men on this side. And he wrote the book When Dad Hurts Mom. We did an interview. It's on his homepage right now. You can see my interview with him. But so there's this balance of like, okay, I'm not supposed to say anything, but then how am I supposed to show my kids what happened? And then there's not this one phrase that I can say that all the, shades are going to fall off their eyes, and then they have cognitive dissonance because this is their dad maybe, or just a man they admired, or it's their grandmother or whoever. What's a girl to do? Okay, and I understand how frustrating this process is for you. But your parents probably did not teach you what toxic behavior is. My guess is they either covered up the own toxic behavior in their family. Ignore that. That's just your uncle. Ignore that. That's just how grandma is. Ignore the fact that someone's drinking that much. Keep it in the family. And at that time, I talked to a woman recently who was in her 60s, and she talked about that at that time, you really had to cover over mental illness because we lived in communities, right? So you might have were born and died in the same community, okay? So in that community, you don't want to tell people all the family drama because then no one will want to marry into the family drama. Okay, it's a really important thing to note as you forgive. And I know this is complicated and I'm telling you a lot of things, and I wish it was just like, okay, say these 3 things, then you won't have any problems. I wish that was the answer I could give you, but it would be a lie. It would not be researched. I would not have science to back it up, and it would not have your own life to back it up because it took you a time and process to work through this, okay? So I want to give you truth, not just BS answers that give you hope for a second and then you feel like I lied to you later. I'd rather give you the truth, okay? But there is hope. There is hope. Just help me get there. So in the past, it was really important to cover up things that were happening in the family because then if you lived in the same place forever, someone wouldn't want to marry into that situation because it's like, oh, don't marry them. Their uncle's crazy, okay? So there was a piece of society rules that it helped to protect and pretend things weren't happening. Okay. Now we live in the information age. People move around. You don't have your reputation of 20 years to fall back on. You have your first impression. You move to a new town. You do online dating. Okay. And in that process, your first impression, the charm, that's become more important than a long-standing character, which is terrifying for all of us in the world and society and dating, okay? But your family probably hid toxic behavior and did not teach you that that was abnormal. They taught you to cover it up. Then if you were in a toxic situation, say you were married for 30 years and in a toxic situation, or you had we'll go with that example, though it can be other family members. But say you were married for 30 years in that toxic situation. How many times did you cover up the toxic person's behavior? Where your kids watched. And then I see people go through their own process and then they want to like pull out the sheet, right? So you did not, my guess is you did not teach your kids what toxic behavior is. And you didn't because no one taught you. I'm not pointing a finger and blaming. I'm trying to give you a really true holistic idea of what's happening so that you really can do something about it. Okay, if you don't understand why, if it's just like, oh gosh, their dad's such a jerk and, now they're taking his side instead of mine. Okay, I could talk to you about that and say, I'm so sorry, that sucks, that's not fair. And it would not help you in any way. You'd feel better for about 2 minutes because I would say, I'm sorry. And I am sorry. I am sorry. But I want to give you some help and some real hope, not just make you feel better for 2 minutes, okay? So think about, there's so much in society about covering up toxic behavior. If you were in a toxic marriage, you probably covered up the toxic behavior. And then you go through a divorce, you go through something like that, and it's like you want to pull the sheet out. And all of a sudden, you want to in your head, all your understanding about narcissism and you just want everyone else to know that and be as mad about it as you now are. But they still have blinders on because it's a family member, because you covered up the toxic behavior, but maybe they don't know what toxic behavior is. Because there's been generations of people who said, oh, that drinking's normal. Oh, we have an arrangement. Yeah, I don't ask questions about where he's been. I just pretend he's not been cheating or whatever. I just want you to hear how normal that has been in society. Okay? So I said that there's a difference in helping your children see toxic behavior and then helping your kids see that a family member is toxic and stand against that family member and take your side and defend you because other people mistreated you. And I want you to see how drastically different the two of those are. Because what I see is women wanting to play the short game. I was mistreated. Their dad's a jerk. Their grandmother's a jerk. Their aunt's a jerk. Their cousin's a jerk. Whatever. I need them to turn against that person and turn towards me, and we live happily ever after because that's fair. And I wish that is how it worked. And I know that it's not. And I had someone post in the Wonder Woman group today, or no, yesterday. And they were like, Sarah, thank you so much. I played the long game, and this is what happened. And it wasn't her biological child. It was a stepchild who was turning towards his stepmother instead of his father because she played the long game. She started brightening her own life and being amazing again and coming back to life after feeling dead and setting boundaries and changing. And the child saw. They saw the difference between their biological dad and stepmom or former stepmom and wrote her a message and said, I'm so thankful for you. I'm seeing this. But it was a process because society is not helping us in this at all. And biology isn't helping. If it's your grandmother or whoever, you don't want to turn against them, especially if that person is branding better than you. And what I mean by branding is, if there is a toxic person, that person's crazy, your mom's crazy, this aunt's crazy, grandmother crazy, and they look how amazing I am, look how great I'm doing, look, I'm confident, I'm smug, I'm charming. And then you appear depressed, crazy, sad, desperate, needy. They are going... Think about how many times you chose safety. How many times you said, ugh, I know I should do something about this. I know this person's mistreating me, but I'm just going to go along with it just for a little bit longer. I can't deal with it now. I can't deal with it now, so I'm just going to stay in the relationship a little longer. Think about how many times you did that. And I want you to have empathy if your children are doing that. I want you to have empathy if friends and family are doing that. Is it fair? No. Am I trying to change the world on this subject? Yes. But the best way you can change and get help is to come back to life if you feel like you are dead. That is the long game. You want them to see... If here's the plan, if the toxic person, I'm going to go on, I'm going to find a new relationship, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to shut down. I'm never going to trust anybody again. I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to drink this problem away. I'm going to whatever. And then your kids see this. Which person are they going to side with? Which person is going to be more believable? And it is that leading by example. That's why I'm always talking about leading by example and leading in a coming back to life way. So coming back to life and then teaching your kids about toxic behavior and what toxic people do. Not in the context of, look, I've been mistreated. I need you to see that whoever is a jerk and take my side. That is not going to work. I know you want it to work. It is not going to work. I want you to come back to life, and I want you to, in integrity, not in a take my side way, teach your kids, oh, watch out for gaslighting. Watch out for toxic people. There's some people that are more trustworthy than others. Listen to your instincts. If something feels weird, it probably is. And think about giving them the tools that you didn't. This is, when you talk about breaking generational cycles, this is what it is. Your mom, grandmother, grandfather, dad had a lot of reasons to hide, to survive in society. He or she had a lot of reasons to pretend things weren't happening that were. In your own house, if you were in a toxic relationship, you spent years pretending things weren't that bad. Then your kids are doing the same thing. Now, you want to, again, you want to break the generation cycle by Sarah. What can I say? These 3 things to get my kid to turn against the toxic person and protect me because that's what's fair. I know that's what you want. And in the thousands of people I have interviewed, I have never heard, or every single expert I've talked to on the Toxic Person Proof podcast, there is no answer on that. There is no, oh, where's the light switch? Turn against them and turn towards me. Turn against them. That's what's fair. I wish it were. I wish it were that easy. But you have to play the long game. And while I strongly advise not, especially if it's a legal thing, not talking to your kids about their parent being toxic, I strongly advise against that. It will get you in trouble. I also strongly advise you to teach your children how not to be manipulated. I strongly advise you to teach your children, if something feels weird, to pay attention to it, not to just dim down their instincts. This will protect them against child predators and sexual abuse as well. It will protect them from being in toxic relationships. And that's the goal, is to think about it. The goal is to protect them from toxic relationships, not to get them to turn against a toxic person that has mistreated you. Okay? Those are 2 different things, 2 different categories. And they're going to listen to you a lot better if you have come back to life and you are full of life and you are full of laughter again and out of the depression and out of the darkness. That's when they listen. Okay? So I hope that helps. I wish there was a quick switch. I wish there was, these 3 steps and make it quicker and easier. Maybe later on in society it will be so, when these terms and the fact that people have personality disorders and things become more well known. But right now, this is where we are. I'm quite confident I'm telling you the truth. And I'm quite certain the right answer is to teach your kids about, oh, did you see that character on TV? That was manipulative, wasn't it? Oh man, that character should have trusted her instincts, right? Oh man, that person, he was cheating and he was doing this, right? And teaching them those types of things that your parents did not teach you. But not, and that's the first step. And eventually, if they come to the term that their other parent was toxic or something, or the other grandparent was toxic or something, then that is what it is. But that you're just teaching them, this is what toxic people do. What do your eyes see? What do you feel? What do you hear? And then if the other parent is behaving well and not manipulating and not losing their temper and not growing through trash relationships, you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to see. The other parent's behaving with kindness and respect, and there's nothing to see. But if there is something to see, or if there's a friendship or whatever, I think about protecting your kids from toxic people, not turning your kids against another parent. Okay? It will get you in trouble. Highly advise not to do it. But I do want your kids to see the truth and to listen to their own inner voices. And that's up to you to play the long game. That was a hard message, but I am quite certain it's the right message, and sending you guys love if you are dealing with this, and I hope this live helps. Have a great day.